Tesla is my largest individual holding in my portfolio right now, and it's a company that always has a lot of noise around it. So let's look at exactly who is buying Tesla stock right now and which individual investors and massive institutions own the most Tesla shares. So firstly, what is actually meant by institutional ownership? And what does it mean when a stock has a high percentage of institutional ownership? Institutional ownership refers to the percentage of a company's outstanding shares that are held by institutional investors. These are things like mutual funds, pension funds, insurance companies, and hedge funds. And these institutional owners, they manage massive amounts of money on behalf of their clients. Think of the likes of Legal & General, BlackRock, and Vanguard. And there's a reason that us retail investors care about the amount of institutional ownership a stock has and what those institutions are actually doing. Are they buying or are they selling? And we're going to talk about this soon. But first, let's see exactly who owns the most Tesla shares. The biggest Tesla shareholder is not actually an institution. Instead, it's an individual. And that is, of course, Elon Musk. He owns a massive 412.6 million shares, representing 13.04% of the stock. And because he owns the most Tesla shares, he actually has the largest voting power. However, what you'll soon start to see is the next three owners are all institutions, and collectively between them, they own just slightly more of a percentage of Tesla shares than Elon Musk now owns. But he did own more previously. If you follow him or Tesla or even Twitter, you'll know that last year he went on a little bit of a rampage of selling Tesla stock in order to raise capital to actually acquire Twitter. So he sold $3.6 billion worth of Tesla shares, which was about 22 million shares in December 2022. He also sold 19.5 million in November 22 and also some in the April as well. But even though he sold all of this, he is still the largest shareholder of Tesla stock. So the second largest owner of Tesla stock is an institution, making them the largest institutional owner of Tesla, and that is Vanguard. I'm sure you've all heard of Vanguard, and probably a lot of you have even used Vanguard before or are currently using Vanguard. But they are the world's second largest asset manager, sitting behind BlackRock. But they were at the very forefront of creating index tracking mutual and exchange traded funds, which we now call ETFs. And the aim of this was to make stock markets accessible for retail investors. We saw a similar thing when we covered Palantir, so check that video out if you're interested. Anyway, Vanguard have a 6.9% ownership, valued at about $44.28 billion. The second largest institutional ownership of Tesla is BlackRock. And like I just said, BlackRock are the world's largest asset manager. They have a 5.7 stake valued at $36.56 billion. And third is State Street Corporation. They are an American financial services company. They are Tesla's third largest institutional owner, with a 3.13% stake. And they own 98.99 million shares. It's quite annoying that they've not just rounded that off to 100 million shares. That's really irritating to me, but we'll leave them alone. They own 98.99 million. The second largest individual shareholder, behind Elon Musk himself, so we're not talking institution, we're talking an individual, is a guy named Larry Ellison. He purchased Tesla shares for an undisclosed amount in 2018 when he actually also joined the Tesla board. Now he owns 1.4%. And really interestingly, the top three institutional owners, so Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street Corp, have actually all been buying more Tesla right now. And in general, actually, institutional ownership of Tesla has been increasing over the past few years. As of the end of March 2023, institutional owners owned 56.9% of Tesla's outstanding shares, which was actually up quite a lot from the previous 43.29% that we saw in June 2019. And this actually means something. It's pretty important, which we're going to get onto in just a second. But even though the institutional owner percentage has been increasing for this company, it's still not as high as we see in other big tech stocks. I found this article here, which is pretty interesting. So you can see down the side, we have a list of some of the massive tech companies: Facebook, Meta, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, and then we have Tesla. And in grey, we have the institutional investors, and in blue, we have retail investors. So institutional investors are those Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, all of those ones that we've just spoken about. And then the retail investors are the people like me and you. So people that can just, everyday people that can invest into these companies. And what we can see is that by far out of these companies, when this was published, Tesla had the least institutional ownership of all of these companies and the most retail investor ownership. You can see Netflix has the most institutional ownership with, what is that, like 95%? That's pretty big. I don't know if that's still the case. So we can see here it says Tesla is a stock of the people. 44% of shares available for trading, not those held by insiders, are owned by retail investors, which is pretty high considering the size of Tesla. The average holding for a FANG stock plus Microsoft is about 18%. We see that Tesla's retail holding is 44%. So it now goes on to say that higher retailer ownership, so as we see with Tesla, can actually result in more stock volatility because retail investors tend to trade more than institutional investors that buy and sell positions more slowly. Of course, with institutions, they can put a large amount of money into one position at a given time, which normally does move the stock price quite a lot if they buy or they sell. Retail investors, however, are a little more, they can be a little bit more here, there and everywhere with their investing. So they might put a little bit of money into Tesla this day and then withdraw it, then put it back in. Like, it can be quite volatile when it comes to retail investors. And I think that's what he's trying to get at here. Tesla only actually got added to the S&P in 2020. So not long ago at all. And definitely a lot more recently than a lot of those other big tech companies that we've just looked at. And also with Tesla, we have a lot of stock volatility. You'll know that if you're a Tesla investor, you do have to have a pretty robust stomach to hold on to this one. We do see it go up and down quite a lot. Also, they've got quite a unique business model. They are in the electric vehicle field. Personally, I don't think that's what they are. I don't think they're a car company. They do so much more. But for the sake of this video, we will say that they have a unique business model. Not everyone wants to invest into the electric car industry. Also, they've got Elon Musk forefronting their leadership. He does ruffle some feathers sometimes, for sure, with his tweets or just with what he's doing, what his opinions are, what he says, what he does with Tesla, what he does with his other companies, and that can also put some people off. And lastly, regulatory uncertainty around electric vehicles, around full self-driving, and all of that could contribute to actually a relatively lower institutional ownership of Tesla stock, even after it was listed on the S&P. Regardless of all of this, there has been an institutional ownership increase, which could be a good sign. It indicates that these massive institutions that have lots of people researching stocks, they're putting a lot of time and thought into what they're investing into. They believe in Tesla's long-term prospects. I will also say that I think Tesla gets analysed incorrectly and valued at a car company quite a lot by Wall Street analysts and other analysts. But even so, it indicates a level of confidence in this company long-term. Now, monitoring institutional ownership can be really interesting, and it can definitely give us retail investors an insight into the market sentiment and trends that are happening right now, but it should not be used solely to make investment decisions. If you guys want to come over and join the Patreon and chat to me and loads of other like-minded people every single day about your portfolio, my portfolio, different stocks, personal finance, all of that good stuff, then come and join. There's a link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video.